impromptu, right? And so, but Anna Mae Reyes is here. But what brings me here today, Anna Mae, is that last night I forgot to do something and you folks didn't remind me. You know, I don't think. Or maybe you did, but I didn't see it. I'm glad you're here, Anna Mae. The pig. Remember, we were supposed to start stuffing the pig. And the problem is that the pig was in storage. And it took us a little while to find the pig. You know, the pig had been put away in the pen. But here's the pig. And so you guys know how the pig is, it works, right? Stuffing the pig. This was Mike's idea. Mike married from Canada. Alien Cruise Official is here. Hello. So what we do is we start putting money in the pig, and then the closer we get to Christmas time, you'll guess how much money is in the pig. Glenda's here. Hello, Alien Cruise. So the one that actually gets closest to guessing how many pesos are in the pig is actually going to win the money that's in here. And if we get an earlier start, that means that we're going to have more money to give away, right, to some lucky person. And it always comes in handy at Christmas time. Now, I know I've been criticized saying, oh, you should divide that up by 10 or something like, no. The whole point is that it's for one person to enjoy their Christmas, right? Buying Christmas gifts and having a little food. And I don't know how much it was won last year. Glenda, do you remember how much was won last year? Was it more than 5,000 peso? Well, anyway, if we start earlier, maybe we can get, I don't know, 10,000 pesos stuffed inside the pig. See that? Now the pig is very cooperative. The pig actually enjoys this, and so I'm good with stuffing the pig. Now we're going to wait for a few more people to get here, and then I'm going to go ahead and put money in the pig. Oh, I know the lighting's terrible. I'm using my phone. Oh, did you see my AI Filipina? So I posted the AI Filipina for the thumbnail, you know, the sticker. And that's because, you know, it's interesting to me that you can go into Chat GPT and you could say to Chat GPT, make a virtual Filipina for me that I could use as a thumbnail sticker. And then Chat GPT, as long as it's working, it's fully operational, will usually come up with something at 2 or 3 choices. Sometimes they'll say, do you like this one? How's this one? How's this one? Do you like all 3? And then you download them, and then you could use them as thumbnail stickers. But check out what happened. I haven't posted a short video in a few days, and so here's what happened. I went into Chat GPT because I was working on an AI, artificial intelligence video. I had an idea for one, and I kept going in there, and Chat GPT finally told me after several attempts, I can't help you because our systems are having trouble. You know, either the internet connection's no good. It was actually giving me specific information about the virtual reality tools that were coming offline, and the disconnect that was happening. The internet connections were going south, and I need these tools in order to help me make this video. And so I started thinking, why is this happening? And then I remembered a lot of people have been having problems with their internet. They said it's been slow, it's been choppy, they've been having download issues, upload issues, and the rest. And then I remembered we're having a solar storm. The Earth right now is getting blasted with magnetic, infrared. We're getting bombarded by solar flares. And when that happens, it disrupts everything. Now, no one is admitting that no one is admitting that this is actually what's behind it. But I suspect that it is, because even here at the home internet, even though we have high speed and all that, right, we have been having some issues with it. So let's see. Anime, or some of you that have, most of you, I guess, have internet moderator status. Can you go ahead and do me a favor and delete all the questionable comments for me? Do your job and moderate. Get rid of, like, even if they're being held for review, don't review them. Just put them in the hold. Just put them in the timeout. I don't want to deal with any weirdos today, honestly. Oh, wait, but here's Larry. No, no. Larry's here. No, Larry. I wasn't. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I don't know why I'm here, except we're going to stuff the pig. I was going to wait for a few more people to come in, and then we're going to ready for the weekend. We're ready. I have a few pesos to put inside the pig, and then once we get a few more people in here, then we're good to go. I'll put the pesos, what I have in mind, inside the pig, and I guess if you show up to every live stream whenever I'm doing, or the ones where I stuff the pig, you can keep track of how much money I put in there. Maybe you'll win when it comes around Christmas time. I know it's we have quite a few months to go before Christmas, but this was the whole plan. I was supposed to do it last night on last night's stream here in the Philippines, because I had promised Canadian Mike that I was going to do it. And none of you in here, as far as I know, reminded me that I hadn't done it yet. So I mean, shame on you and shame on me for forgetting. 7 million people in the house. Let's see, let's go over some news, because I got nothing better to do. And by the way, I'm sorry about the lighting. Let me put my lamp a little bit closer. Some of you may see it in the view. I'm just using a regular LED or flavor saver light. Lorraine Pajares is here. Thanks for showing up. I know it's a short notice, but let's go ahead and take a look at this. So I went into Philstar Global, and I'm looking around reading News for the Nation, right? News for the Nation. And the headline right here is that 20 kilo rice for all Pinoys depends on LGU Palace. I really don't know what that means. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't know what that means. Residents wait. Oh, there's a picture in here. If you go online and you go into Philstar News, and it says residents avail themselves of rice in Karkar, Cebu on Thursday. The inset shows employees of the local government unit repacking rice. And so apparently they're serious about this promise of pesos 20 per kilo rice. It says that it is available to those who do not belong to the vulnerable sector. I don't know what that means. At present, pesos 20 kilo rice initiative is limited only to vulnerable groups, including low-income families, senior citizens, solo parents, and persons with disabilities. But isn't that everyone who is in the Philippines? Don't they fall into that category? The low-cost rice can be purchased in select Kadiwa centers nationwide until December. So throughout the rest of the year, they'll be offering this. And I guess you have to have some kind of proof that you're poor. Living in the Philippines, I guess, is not enough. I was saying last night, in case you guys missed it, that the cost of stuff is going up, rapidly here in the Philippines. And Minnie and I, we had to add pesos, about 6,000 pesos to our monthly budget. That's a lot of money. And how it happened was that Minnie kept coming to me saying, hey, I'm short. And this has been going on for a couple of months, when before the allocated budget was working out just fine. It was smooth as silk. But remember, we got this double whammy, right? We have inflation, which is hitting the Philippines pretty hard. The prices of goods and services is climbing. God repairs his last night's winter. And so that's happening. Inflation's happening along with a weak dollar. And so in the last few months, the value of the dollar has sunk against the Philippine peso. The peso is stronger than the dollar right now. Check it out. Go online and find out about that. And that means, of course, that's going to have an impact. And so we've gone from like 59, which was a high, 59 pesos per dollar, down to about 55, 55 and change. That's some pretty serious money. James Robinson from San Francisco is in the house. And so that means that you can't delay anymore. You have to accept. You have to accept the reality that the dollar may not recover so quickly. I'm kind of predicting, or I think, that it's going to recover by the end of the year. By year's end, right around December, it should recover when some of these new policies are put into place in the U.S. And you know what I'm talking about. Things like, Saudi Arabia guaranteeing that oil transactions are going to be 100% in the dollar, and they waned a little bit about that. They balked a little bit about that until Trump's visit, and now they're back on board. This whole thing about the BRICS being laid to rest. You haven't heard anybody talk about the BRICS nations anymore, and that's because it's pretty much a dead deal. And the reason why it's a dead deal is because Trump threatened tariff. He said, hey, we're going to increase tariffs, Well, the whole thing is, if America were able to deliver a decent plane in a short amount of time, Mike, then of course, we wouldn't have to get one for free from Saudi Arabia. But I'm okay with them wanting to give us gifts because the United States is a very generous nation, They're one of the most charitable countries in the entire world. We give away taxpayer money like it's going out of style. So for somebody to return the favor by giving us a gift of a plane so our president can, have a plane that's in a little bit better shape than whatever it is, 49-year-old plane that he's riding around with now. Well, we're the most powerful country in the world. Would I want our president slumming it? No, I don't think so, no matter what party they belong to. I don't think that I want our president slumming around the country in an old jet. And since we can't provide one for him because of the way things work here in these United States of America, then we gotta take advantage of those nations where we've been very, very generous with our money. Ray from Glenda, Montero. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate. See if I can reconnect. I apologize. The reason why. See if I can reconnect. I apologize. The reason why I had the interruption is because when you have both the Wi-Fi and the mobile going at the same time, there's a conflict. It's fighting for. It wants to go to the internet, and the internet is too far away from here. The internet is for the phone. Is in the living room, which is quite a bit of ways, and so I forgot to turn that off and go with data, and so now we're good to go. So I appreciate the raid. Yeah, so I wish this whole thing about the plane, is a bunch of nonsense because we're like I said, we're one of the most generous countries on the planet, and so we give gifts all the time. We're gifting gifts every day. It's taxpayer money. I would like to receive a gift back. So, by the way, I'm a fan of milk chocolate. So if you decide you want to give a gift to Dan, send me some milk chocolate. Hershey's would be just fine. Prissy Manzanero is in the house. How are you? All right, so let's see what else is going on. I'm interested in this 20 peso rice per kilo because we have 3 seniors in this house, myself included, right? And so I keep thinking to myself, should I not be entitled, or should my in-laws not be entitled? That's a better way of putting it. I'm a foreigner, I'm a visitor here in your country. But I was just thinking, should they not be entitled to pesos 20 per kilo rice? Absolutely they should be. Tox loves chocolates. Yes, she does, with almonds, sees candy. Yeah, that's absolutely a fact. So, and she likes the American version, right? Because the stuff that comes out of Malaysia is fake. All right, you guys can let me know how the peso 20 rice giveaway is, or reduced subsidized price, how that's working out. because I know it was a promise that was made to all Filipinos, about a year or two ago. And now we're starting to see it show up. Let's see. Of course we are, Mike. Of course, because, for obvious reasons, the United States is subsidizing Canada, and then you have to admit that Canada can't survive on its own accord, right? I mean, we've been very charitable, especially with Canada, and so we'll have to disagree, absolutely. I know it's embarrassing that Canada cannot support its own economy, but by the way, that doesn't mean that I'm not pro supporting Canada. I absolutely am, and I believe that they should cut out that rhetoric, about that Canada should be the 51st state. No. They're a sovereign nation. I respect it. You see, so I respect it. They should remain a sovereign nation, but should we continue to subsidize it? Well, it all depends. I think if you agree that that getting a jet is okay since we're giving $200 billion to Canada every year, then yeah, yeah. If you agree with me, then Mike, and I'm okay with not making Canada the 51st state. So anyway, we all know why some expats come to the Philippines. A lot of times they come here because they're looking for a partner. Not necessarily a wife. 240 million people buys more than 40 million. Okay, so thanks for hanging in there with me, Mike, on my sense of humor. So anywho, moving on. Let's see what else is going on in the nation, in the Philippine nation in particular, although I opened the door to global issues. We're going to talk about global issues, but the other thing I want to talk about is a lot of people, they're in the Philippines, they're not, they don't have because they don't sit in front of the TV set the way that Americans do or other Westerners. And that's a good thing, right? They're getting mostly their news from their phone, from social media. And that's both good and bad. It can be problematic at times. But how and it does fall along political lines, a little bit. And that was, I wish I could give you feel-good stories all the time, but truth of the matter is that the rift between the Chinese out in the Philippine Sea, it is not a good thing, but it becomes even more complicated because they have tons of capital investment in infrastructure going on in the Philippines right now. But it's not only the Philippines, it is all over the world. And so if you do a little bit of reading on that, you're going to find that that's right. I did read that. A Filipino in Canada won $80 million the other day. Congratulations. I did read that and forgot to mention it. So there's a lot of capital investment, and that's kind of like the method for which the Chinese have learned to endear themselves to a foreign nation. So if that is all, if they wanted to protect that foreign investment, then they will knock off the conflicts in the South China Sea, right? Or in the Philippine Sea. That's kind of like my view on it, right? So I think that things are going to work themselves out sooner or later with those types of conflicts, once they start directing their vision towards their own country, which they need to do now because they have a struggling economy due to these tariff and embargoes that have taken place, then not really a forced embargo. They're mostly voluntary because you can't do trade if your tariffs are above 145%, right? So it's an artificially induced embargo. So yes, we have a peso a billionaire, which I think is great. All right. They'll probably give all their money to their relatives. They'll probably be Jollibees packed, packed for the next few months. They'll spread the money around, right, Mike? Here's another thing I want to talk about. again, from Philstar Global News on the internet if you want to follow along. Kanaloan extended danger zone. So, folks, there have been a lot of predictions about this volcano, right? If you go on YouTube and you put this name in of that volcano, you're gonna find a lot of naysayers. You're gonna find a lot of people predicting the demise of the Philippines because of this volcano, right? That there's a lot more happening than meets the eye. And so there's a guy, and I can't remember his YouTube channel either, who talks a lot about things like this, changes to the geology of the earth, and he talks a lot about this particular volcano. And there have been a couple of people that I don't necessarily believe in people prophesizing, and being able to see into the future, but it's very, very interesting, that they're running with this story, saying that, the earth is going to be split open and it's going to start right here in the zone of the Canloan volcano on Negros Island. That's Negros Island. So the Office of Civil Defense is saying that volcanologists, they've noted that the activity has simmered down since a 5-minute moderate explosion erupted and occurred on May 13th. But stories like this, of course, they make me a little bit nervous because, the possibility is always there that this could become and turn into something the size of Pinatubo that happened in the 1970s in that Pampanga region, that basically made that area, that region, a desert. You couldn't live there, and they had to expand the exclusion zone so that people and relocate, thousands of people outside of that area of influence of that volcano, Mount Pinatubo. And it seems as though a relocation program is in progress right now. So it's a few hours from, your house. Yeah, a few hours is a pretty good distance comparatively. When you were talking about the distance from Clark Air Force Base to Pinatubo, what is that? A 15 or 20-minute trike ride? It's pretty serious stuff, which is why the United States government ended up closing Clark Air Force Base. They couldn't operate out of it. You can't operate out of it because it clogs the jet engines of your jets. Meanwhile, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, Western Visayas, has distributed cash assistance to families that have already been displaced by the eruption of Canlaon. So they're getting them out of there. Up to 1,800 families have received the cash assistance amounting to almost 6,000 pesos. So, they're taking it very, very seriously. Recipients were residents of La Carlota, La Castellana, Bago City, and other areas that were severely affected by the ash fall. And a lot of you probably received the message. If you fly Cebu Pacific, then you most likely have. Pamela is here. Hi, Pamela. Thanks, everybody, for joining me for a few moments. You may have already have received a instant message from Cebu Pacific talking about the cancellation of flights due to the eruption of the volcano. And so, as far as I know, they have yet to be restored. And those were flights involved passing between Davao and Iloilo, and the return flights from Iloilo to Cebu and others. Bye, Larry. We'll see you later. So let me get on with this. Stuffing the pig. Oink, oink. So I hope I don't bore you with this, because now that we're starting, thanks to Mike's suggestion, I was supposed to do this last night. And again, I want to thank Mike, Canada Mike, for suggesting that we start this early, because I realize he's right. If we want to have a little bit more pesos to share with the winner, then we got to go ahead and get this and start the stuffing, right? So here we go. Here's what I'm doing. I'm putting the first 100 peso bill inside here. I don't have any coin available today. Crystal's Adventure from Pangasinan. How are you? How's Mark doing? How are the kitties? All right. So here's 100 pesos. Look, I'm going to unravel it. See? That's going inside the pig. Write it down for future reference. Here it goes. Oink, oink. There you go. It's stuffed. All right. No pigs will be harmed in the making of this video. Even though you could hear a pig meeting its demise in the last live stream, or the one before that. That was terrible. I had no idea I was walking into that. Thankfully, YouTube did not ban me because the pig met their demise. All right, let's see what else is going on in the news. So we got pesos 20 rice. You want to find out about that. And we've got the volcano and the assistance that they're giving for that. But really, it's for relocation assistance. I'm sure there are a lot of requirements. Like, you got to get out of Dodge in order to get the money. You know, and I realize it's a very, very difficult thing to do, because that means that they're going to have to relocate to live with relatives and the like. And that is not necessarily a very comfortable thing to have happen, you know. So now I want to talk about, I started talking about capital investment by not only the Chinese, but the Americans, you know, in infrastructure improvement. As many of you know, there are all kinds of infrastructure improvement going on in the Philippines. It's happening so quickly. Storm drains being put in and new water lines are being run. Have you guys gone by the city hall or their where the workers hang out, you know, the construction workers and the street maintenance people, and they have big, huge spools of the black line, right? You'll see that, and you'll go, I've never seen that before. What's that black line for? So I went in there, you know, it's like plastic, flexible pipe, and it's probably about 4 inches round. So I went over there and I asked at our local yard, you know, where the guys hang out, what's that for? And they said they're replacing all the water lines in the entire Philippines. And that was our allocation for Bye Bye City Leyte. So I mean, and also one more thing. If you think that if your island is going to escape a seawall being built on your island, you are sorely mistaken, because they are building seawalls everywhere, as though they know that, you know, they're going to have problems with flooding. And they're saying that that's the reason why they're putting in new storm drains for quick evacuation of the seawater and the floods. They're trying to prevent them from occurring due to rising sea levels. I don't know if any of this stuff is true or not. I really don't. But that's those are the answers that I'm getting, you know, when I ask questions. They're saying, oh no, we have to prepare. They don't say global warming, they just say sea rise. You know, the water level's coming up, and they want to be prepared for it. So, Girlicina is here. Alisa, how are you? Thanks for joining us. All right, what else do I have to talk about here? Oh, you know, I noticed that, just a quick talk about how busy it's been downtown. Now, somebody told me, this is not my personal opinion, but I did observe that it's been very, very busy downtown Bye Bye City Leyte. And when I go on YouTube, everybody's talking about how the Jollibee is packed, the Mang Inasal is packed, Prince Mall, Metro, SM, Save More, you know, that people are packing in there. And they're spending money like crazy. And so I started asking, what, you know, where's all this money coming from? And people have told me that the response I get back is simply that, Oh, they're spending their election money. What? I didn't know you get paid for voting. I had no idea that some people get paid for voting. Mm. Well, I don't know where they're at. Mike, I'll do a little bit of research to see if I could find out if they're building sewer treatment plants or not. I know they have them in Subic Bay. I know they have them in Clark. And so I would imagine that these new areas, I heard that only 5 to 7% of all residences in the Philippines were hooked up to a sewer treatment plant, you know. But when I start reading about the material that's going into the ocean and the underground aquifers of the Philippines, you know, they've been doing this for hundreds of years. And when I started doing a little bit of cursory research on this, because I like to read a lot, they said something like, you know, that it biodegrades, you know, and they gave some statistics. So I don't know, Cashmaster is here. Oh, Cashmaster. Cashmaster is here. Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't award you with a blue jacket yet. That's my bad. I always forget to do that. I don't know why that is. But anyway, yeah, so I would imagine that as they continue to build and improve the Philippines infrastructure, that the building of sewage treatment plants are going to be part of that. I have one more interesting article that I ran into that I want to talk about. There was this person, right? He thought that he was building the house of his dreams, but it actually turned into a nightmare, right? And so it's about a guy who was building a house in La Hogue, and then as he started to dig everything out, he discovered some tunneling underneath, right? And I didn't get a chance to read the entire article about what they thought that those tunnels were there for. But you know, I have a guess, and that is that when the Japanese were here, they were expert at building underground tunnels. And so I'm taking it, Maris is here. I'm thinking that, you know, the Japanese had a lot to do with this, the building of tunnels underground. So if you want to catch that article, then you might want to go into Philstar News Online. It's called Philstar News Global, and read that article. So I know others of you they build lots of tunnels, yeah. Where's that gold? I'm gonna go looking for the gold. So, but can you imagine if that happened to me? If I dug and I ran into a tunnel, I'm turning the tunnels into a house. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna let that stop me from doing anything. As a matter of fact, not only would we take advantage of it, but I would keep it a secret. I wouldn't tell anybody that there are tunnels running underneath my house. I'm gonna vault them, make them safe, and I'm gonna have all this extra space I didn't pay for running underground, right? So I mean, that's where I am with it, right? I'm not telling anybody. Oh, speaking of the building of houses, I just want to let you know that the engineer stopped by yesterday. I probably mentioned this last night. He said that everything is looking really good, and he gave me a few ideas. If we end up building it ourselves, then he was giving me a few tips about what I need to do next. You know, of course, the foundation is the most important part of building the house, and that's what he was speaking to. So apparently, I gotta level everything out by renting a paver. You know, with the big round things. You know, you roll over them and then you level and lock everything in with crushed rock. So you lock everything in with crushed rock, and once everything is compacted, and you're good then to get an excavator to excavate everything back out and start setting your foundation. But what we talked about, and If you have an idea about this, please leave it in the comment section after the video airs or uploads. But I gave him this idea. I was reading somewhere where it's only a 200 square meter lot. And even though it would be expensive to do it this way, it wouldn't be cost prohibitive. But and by the way, I talked to another engineering friend about this too. Someone who did this at his own house here in the Philippines, not too far from here. In fact, he invited me over to take a look. But because it's only a 200 square meter lot, which is a relatively small lot, I got the idea of laying concrete and rebar over the whole thing, the whole lot, all 200 square meters. And both engineers, the guy I had breakfast with the other day, and also the engineer that stopped by yesterday, said they thought it was an absolutely fabulous idea. One reason why it's such a great idea is because it redistributes the load. So that was great. And then one last thing to talk about. Do you think that we should build a native house? So a native house would be far less expensive to build, and we could make it look really nice. And so we're talking about a hybrid type of house. It would be, half of it would be native, and then the roof, of course, would be the traditional metal roof. So you let me know, and of course the ceilings and everything would most likely be Hardy Flex. I would stay with that plan. The ceiling would be insulated, and it would be out of the regular standard metal roofs. But you tell me what you think about the idea of building a hybrid house, half native house and then half modern. And you know who gave me this idea? It was actually Des, when she asked me, are you going to build a native house? And I started thinking about it. Bamboo materials are very, very strong. A lot of people don't know this. Most Filipinos know this. A lot of expats do not. And you could use those for your support beams. And so after we upload this, you let me know what you think about building a hybrid house that is half native and half modern. Slap them both together probably would save a ton of money and would look spectacular. We'll see everybody on the next live stream. Don't forget, every Friday on the giveaway, you have to remind me, and I'll remind myself to stuff the pig. Thanks again, Mike, from Mike Married. And thanks everybody for supporting the channel. LNL is in the house. Presley Manzanero, James Robinson from San Francisco. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. We are out. See